There's a version of your life that changed, and you didn't even notice when it happened. Not because of one big decision. Not because of a huge mistake or a sudden breakthrough. But because of something smaller. It looked like ordering takeout instead of cooking, again. Or saying, "I'll save next month," without really thinking about it. Or choosing the slightly more expensive option because it felt easier in the moment. Nothing dramatic. Nothing urgent. But over time, those quiet choices started stacking. And one day, you look up and realize your life feels different. Your money feels tighter than it should. Your options feel smaller than you expected. And you can't point to a single moment that caused it. That's the part no one really talks about. Because most financial change doesn't happen in big, loud moments. It happens slowly, and almost silently. We've been taught to think about money like it's driven by major decisions. Choosing a career. Buying a house. Investing in the market. Starting a business. And those things do matter. But they're not what shape your life the most. What actually determines your financial direction is something much less obvious. It's the pattern of your everyday decisions. The ones that feel too small to matter. Because when something doesn't feel important in the moment, your brain doesn't treat it like a real decision. It treats it like background noise. So you don't question it. You don't analyze it. You don't even remember it. But your life remembers. Every small financial decision leaves a trace. And over time, those traces form a direction. Not overnight, not in a way that feels dramatic. But slowly, consistently, and very real. Think about how most people spend money on a normal day. You wake up, maybe you're tired, maybe you're rushing. You grab coffee instead of making it. You order lunch because you didn't plan ahead. You scroll online at night and pick up something you didn't really need. None of those choices feel like a big deal. And honestly, on their own, they aren't. But the impact of financial decisions isn't about intensity. It's about repetition. Your brain is wired to prioritize short-term comfort over long-term outcomes. That's not a flaw, that's just how we're built. When you're stressed, tired, or overwhelmed, your decision-making shifts into what psychologists call low-effort mode. You choose what's easiest. What feels good now. What removes friction. And money becomes a tool to reduce that friction. You don't think, "This is affecting my future." You think, "This makes today a little easier." And again, that's human. But here's where things start to quietly shift. Let's say you spend an extra $20 a day on convenience. That doesn't sound serious. It's just food, small purchases, little upgrades. But over a year, that's over $7,000. And more importantly, it's not just the money. It's the pattern. Because once a behavior becomes normal, your brain stops questioning it. It becomes your baseline. So instead of thinking, "Should I spend this?" you think, "This is just what I do." And that's how small decisions stop feeling like decisions at all. They become identity. Now zoom out a few years. You're not just someone who occasionally spends a little extra. You're someone whose lifestyle is built around convenience. And convenience has a cost. Not just financially, but mentally. Because when your lifestyle expands quietly, your income has to keep up just to maintain it. And if it doesn't, you feel stuck. Not because of one big mistake, but because of hundreds of small, unexamined decisions. There's another layer to this too. It's not just about spending. It's also about what you don't do. Not saving that small amount because it won't make a difference. Not investing because it feels confusing or intimidating. Not learning about money because you're busy with everything else. These don't feel like decisions. They feel like nothing. But in reality, inaction is still a direction. Every time you delay something small, you're not staying in the same place. You're slowly moving further away from where you could have been. And that's where compound effects come in. Not just financially, but behaviorally. Because compound interest isn't only about money growing. It's about habits growing. If you consistently save a small amount, your confidence grows. If you consistently ignore it, your avoidance grows. And over time, those habits shape your relationship with money. Not in a loud way, but in a quiet, almost invisible shift. Here's a simple example. Two people make almost the same income. They live in the same city, have similar expenses. But one of them builds a small habit. Every time they get paid, they move a small amount aside. Nothing extreme, nothing aggressive. Just consistent. At first, it doesn't change their life. They still feel normal. They still have the same daily experience. But over time, they start to feel something different. A little more control. A little less stress. A little more breathing room. And that feeling changes how they make decisions. They become slightly more intentional. Slightly more patient. Slightly more aware. Meanwhile, the other person doesn't build that habit. Not because they're irresponsible, but because it never felt urgent. And slowly, their experience shifts too. A little more pressure. A little more uncertainty. A little more dependence on their next paycheck. Same income. Different direction. Not because of a big decision. But because of a small one, repeated over time. At some point, you start to realize something important. Your financial life isn't shaped by what you intend to do. It's shaped by what you repeatedly do, without thinking. That's the shift. Because once you see that, you stop waiting for the right moment to make a big change. You stop thinking you need more discipline, more motivation, or a perfect plan. And you start paying attention to something much simpler. Your default behavior. You start asking, what do I do automatically with money? What feels normal to me? What decisions am I not even noticing anymore? Because those are the ones shaping your future. Not the big, emotional moments. But the quiet, consistent ones. And here's the part that's actually reassuring. If small decisions can slowly move your life in the wrong direction, they can also slowly move it in the right one. You don't need a complete overhaul. You don't need to become a completely different person overnight. You just need to slightly shift your defaults. That might look like something as simple as pausing for a second before spending. Not to judge yourself, just to notice. Do I actually want this, or is this just automatic? Sometimes the answer will still be yes. And that's okay. This isn't about restriction. It's about awareness. Or maybe it's setting up something small that happens without effort. A tiny transfer when you get paid. A limit that gently guides your choices. A system that reduces the need to constantly decide. Because the goal isn't to rely on willpower. It's to shape your environment so better decisions happen naturally. And maybe most importantly, it's giving yourself permission to move slowly. We're used to thinking progress has to be dramatic to matter. But with money, slow progress is often the most powerful kind. Because it's sustainable. And sustainability is what creates direction. If you really think about it, your life isn't built in moments. It's built in patterns. The way you spend. The way you save. The way you respond to stress, comfort, and pressure. Those patterns don't announce themselves. They don't feel important while they're happening. But over time, they shape everything. And the good news is, you don't have to fix everything today. You don't have to go back and undo every decision. You just have to start noticing the small ones. Because the same quiet force that slowly pulled things off track can quietly bring them back. One small decision at a time. Not perfect. Not extreme. Just a little more intentional than before. And over time, that's what changes everything. There's a funny thing about money, most of us spend years trying to figure it out, but we rarely slow down enough to understand why we do the things we do. I'm Jeff. And if you've made it this far, you're probably not just trying to make more money, you're trying to feel a little more in control of it, a little more at peace with it. That's what this channel is really about. Not perfection, not pressure, just understanding the small decisions that shape your life over time. So if that sounds like something you need right now, you can stick around. Maybe hit subscribe, maybe like the video if it helped you think a little differently. And if not, that's okay too. Either way, I'll see you in the next one.